Welcome to 10 Talks, real conversations for champions with champions, where a champion life is a 10 life. Thank you for joining our team today. I'm Carlette Patterson, your head sports life coach at the Life Training Academy, and it's our desired outcome to share our passion for sports life coaching by training you to live a 10 life. You and your life matter. Let's get coached.
On the rising tide, as the truth descends, you chose not to ride again. Watch it holding on to one. Life is going on all around and on to one.
Hi team, welcome to 10 Talks. I am looking forward to sharing a guest with you today who has retired from soccer for about 4 years now. Ben is going to share his story. Our conversation is going to be all about transitioning from sport to life, and I had the honor of having been in our sports life coaching certification class while he was playing as a pro soccer player. So you're going to get to hear those stories, how sports life coaching has played a role in his life, both personally, professionally, and philanthropically as well. So welcome to the show, Ben. We are looking forward to hearing your story and just experiencing really what it's like to go from being a pro soccer player to transition. We know that in our work, the work you and I do, that, you know, this is happening day in and day out, but people really don't understand the power of it and just the power of our identity that is inside sport. So we want to start with an introduction, the power of your story. So just share a bit of your story with us.
Yeah, so just my journey in terms of as a professional soccer player, when I started off as a young kid with my dad being a very passionate soccer man, and I guess I got thrown into it a little bit, and I was very good, I suppose, from a young age, and came through my as just in a local club soccer team. But as I got sort of to 16, 17, I started making the New Zealand under-17 team, and I had to leave home at 16 to go and live in Auckland and play, train with New Zealand. And we went to the under-17 World Cup in Egypt, which was a pretty big thing for New Zealand. It was the first tournament that a New Zealand team had ever been to for the World Cup for under-17s, and leaving home was tough. I found it really hard, and I still look back and I wish I was still a kid for a bit longer rather than having to leave home. And then just gradually my career just got better and better, and I was sort of trying to push to become a professional soccer player. Between about 18 and 20, I should have really cracked it, signing a full-time deal, and I never did. And I was always like uncertain why, and sort of quite resentful towards everyone because I hadn't had that first opportunity, and I was always a good player and everyone thought I was fantastic. And I got so disheartened that I ended up turning to pretty much alcohol and having a good time and drugs, and I just got lost in my own little bubble. And it probably took me 2 or 3 years to kind of have a really good look at myself personally, and it wasn't actually anything to do with anyone else. It was actually just me and who I was. And so from about 23, I just decided that I needed to change the person I wanted to be able to become a professional. And my time was running out as well, so 23 is a very late age to be signing professionally. And, I changed what I was doing training wise. I looked at my drinking and my habits, and I changed the person I was, quite dramatically, and I needed to. And from that moment, really, I probably the biggest turning point for me was the Phoenix, which is the New Zealand team here. That's the only professional soccer team here in New Zealand, had just started, and I was watching it from the pub, having my beer, thinking I was really cool. And that was kind of like my aha moment, and that was when the players I played with had were out there playing, and I was better than them. I was like, man, when I was younger, I was much better than them. Like, and I'm sitting here in this pub, you know, and they were out there playing professional football, and so, or soccer, sorry.
No, it's
And,
good. You use your language, I'll use mine. It's all good. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And yeah, as I said, that was my moment. And I sort of said to the boys in the bar and said, like, I'm going to go and play for the Phoenix. And literally that night pretty much made some decisions that I was going to do it. And I went back to New Zealand, rang the coach and said, I'm going to do what it takes. And started getting in the gym, training hard, stopped drinking, just did everything you needed to be an athlete. Whoever's been an athlete knows there's a lot that goes with it, not just on the field but off the field. And within 12 months, I got recalled back up to the New Zealand team and signed a one-year contract for the Wellington Phoenix professionally, which was, at that stage, I was 25, and then from 25 right through to 35, I was professional and had the most amazing career. I went to the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. That was like the best moment of my life, and just had some fantastic years being professional and absolutely loved it. And just at 35, had no regrets and achieved everything I wanted to achieve. And then I did the course, the certificate with about 3 years remaining as a player, and it was the best thing I ever did. It actually helped me get through my last 2 or 3 years, just mentally being able to deal with certain situations, and I did it while I was playing, and I was even like stealing the coach's office to go online with you because my times were different in America. So I was sitting there in the coach's office, you know, doing my online modules and things with you guys, which was just amazing. So, yeah, and then 4 years later, we can probably talk about that, but yeah, just 4 years of hard graft of trying to get my business up and running, and just massive changes of being a professional to work life, and loved it, really enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say it's easy.
Yeah, well, Ben, the beautiful part about your story is it's competitive greatness. I mean, I know in our tools we anchor in competitive greatness. It's truth, faith, and love. And certainly you speaking your truth about just how difficult it is, not only being a pro, but, you know, determining if you're going to do the work to be a pro, what it takes. Let's just start with really that wrestling that you had with your identity whenever you were drinking, you were making choices that weren't champion choices. And so you weren't getting the result that you wanted, and you had some anger and, you know, you had to deal with all that. There's so many of us in the world that are good at what we're doing, or we have a lot of potential and a lot of people talk us up, and then it gets hard and it's really difficult, and it comes down to the only performance barrier is us, right? We're the ones that get in our own way. And so just share a bit of that journey in terms of just, you know, the wrestling of how did you, I don't know, figure out that this is what you were want to do? I mean, I know certainly watching those players, but you had some space in between there that was definitely a time for you to figure out really what you're all about.
Yeah, I don't really know what it was. I think a lot of it was I didn't know whether I loved or wanted to be a professional footballer, and that was probably my wrestling. And I was good, and Mum and Dad got me into it, and I was making all these teams, but I didn't know whether I really loved it and whether it was what I wanted to do. And so I just constantly had this wrestling match with myself. I loved it, but I didn't love it. And so I probably gave that out to the world of the coaches. They're like, oh, look, you're really good, but your attitude sucks and you don't really feel like you want to be here. So, like, how can I pick a guy with a bad attitude that just, he goes hard, he does pretty well, but he's poorly behaved. He goes out drinking, he still turns up on the Saturday and plays half drunk, you know, and so you're sending out all these wrong messages. And probably the biggest moment for me was mum and dad, and I love them to bits, and they were awesome, and don't get me wrong, because like they were just my rock, but they were almost looking through the lens of Ben Sigmund, the soccer player, not Ben Sigmund, the son that they brought into this world, and unconditional love around whatever you want to do. And so I had that fighting internally with them, and just one day out of the blue, they were like, "What are you doing with your life?" And I'm like, "Well, what are you doing with my life?" You know, like, you're trying to make me live this life of a footballer that I don't even know if I want to be him. And I just gave them a few home truths, which was at the time was really horrible. And it was more about like, I want you to love me for Ben Sigmund. I want you to just love me for not the soccer player. It's just me. And they took it really hard, and it probably took about 2 to 3 weeks for them to kind of understand where I was coming from. But they gave me a call about 2 weeks later, and I was done. I was like, I want you to love me for Ben. I don't want you to love me for the soccer player. That's plain and simple. And they rang me and they said, look, and I get emotional about it, because they rang me and says, look, we understand. We're here for you. We'll support you with whatever you do. And that was that was like the moment that I just wanted to hear that. We love you. And that was it. And from that moment, that was the day that I just went, right, okay. And then they never ever put any pressure on me. All I got was a text message was, good luck for the game, Ben. We love you. And that's all I wanted. And then the rest, I took care of the rest. You know, the training, the working hard, the wanting to be there. And it just turned it around within 12 months. So that was it. That was my anger. That was where it was.
And just that power of love. I mean, wow, right? I mean, so many, it's such a primal thing that I think happens so much in sport, is that do people really love us for who we are, or do they love our performance? And that gets really confusing, especially as athletes. We start very young. We start when our identity is being formed. And so we're no longer 8 years old or 9 years old and, you know, playing catch with the family and having fun family. We grow up super quick. And, you know, I too left home very early and, you know, can relate to your story 100% in terms of we just turn into these like mini machines that start working at a very, very young age. And then the whole family is attached to our performance, and that's our identity. And we're introduced that way. And, you know, it's very powerful. It's somewhat intoxicating in terms of, but we don't have any tools in our little bitty person toolbox to really understand kind of what to do with it. And then we feel like if we win, we're a winner. If we lose, we're a loser. I mean, it just gets, it's so performance driven, and that's a horrible way to live. And I really appreciate and respect what you said about the emptiness, about, you know, whenever we're angry or the drinking or, you know, the bad choices, bad attitude, there's a message in there. Like, you know, we all want to be really good people. And if we're not performing as that champion that we want to be, there's a reason why, you know, and instead of just criticizing us, can we go to, how can I serve and support? Like, how can I help so that we have the ability to figure this out without it ruining us or our families or, you know, any of that. And so again, back to competitive greatness, we talk about truth. You shared that in a beautiful way. The next one is faith, and really, you know, finding a faith in your team, in your teammates, in yourself, like having faith in my belief. And so take us through how you started to have faith in yourself.
So again, it's great. It's a great question. And because I always had that, I didn't know whether I loved the game. I needed something else to love it. Mm-hmm. And so what it was when I went professional, it was like, I want to be the soccer player that all the New Zealand young kids look up to and inspire to be like. And I needed to be that. That was me. And so, for an example, we've only got one professional soccer team here, and you've got, you know, say 300,000 kids. So you're not very likely going to be a professional. But I wanted those young kids to be able to look up to me and want to be like Ben Sigmund. And to be that Ben Sigmund, you had to be a good role model, right? And so it was like that when I was playing as well. It was like, man, I don't know if I want to be out there today because I don't love it all the time. But what kept me motivated is I've got to play well and I've got to do well because I want all those young kids to look up to me, to inspire to be like me. And so that's how that was my faith, because that's what kept me going, because at times I hated the game. I didn't even want to be out there. But I was like, no, I've got to show those kids who I'm going to be. And that's what kept me going.
And so, Ben, that is so much about our 3 dimensions: personal, professional, and philanthropic. And so philanthropically, you were giving hope. And what's ironic about the whole giving hope component is that it became your why for you to really show up for those kids. And, you know, it really anchored you in something so much bigger than you. And, you know, all those things that we hear, but we're getting to feel it as we really talk about that with you. And as much as you were giving and inspiring those kids, they were giving you such hope for you to really be about being so much better for them rather than just playing for yourself. And that's another thing in sports. It can be really lonely and isolating.
Yeah.
And people don't think about that, right? I mean, the fans, and, you know, it's so amazing to be a pro athlete. Talk about just, you know, your times and winning strategies for that loneliness.
I think probably the biggest thing for me when I was certainly towards the end of my career was just doing your course. You know, like, it was just the tools that you gave me, and I wish I'd done it earlier in my career, so I was able to deal with certain moments or bad situations that I probably would have handled differently once I'd had the course. And it was more about just understanding myself and being able to deal with those certain situations. And the biggest thing for me, I always remember, and I just can't remember what the tool was that you told me to use, but it was very early on in my career, when I was doing this course with you, and I don't know if you remember, but I got in trouble and I was angry. I had a bad temper. But again, I didn't have any tools or strategies to deal with my anger at times. And I was so frustrated, I actually, you know, I stomped on a player, and I got myself into a serious amount of trouble. It went viral, Facebook, everywhere. And I can't remember the tool you told me to use, but you like, I was expecting you to judge me, just relief so much pressure that I was feeling, and there was no judgment in it. And I went away, and it was just amazing. It really was. And from that moment, I was like, this course is for me 100%, you know.
I remember that day as plain as day. I mean, as we talk about, you and I haven't connected in quite a while. I mean, the beautiful part about being a coach and serving as your coach is that it doesn't matter the amount of time that goes by. You know, we can call or text and be like, anytime you need anything, we're all here. And, you know, there's no time between, I don't know, it's just a very special relationship that we have as coaches and athletes. And, you know, me having the honor of being your sports life coach. And I can remember you being in the office and it being dark or early. We were on different time zones, and, you know, and you really making a commitment to be on the course. And I can remember when that happened, it was a really tough day. And we, as a team, got to support you and really, you know, let you process it, which I think is incredibly important. Is so many times we watch our game film over and over and over and talk about how to kick better, or, you know, how to be a better athlete. We don't watch our life film in the same way and really learn, like, okay, when this happened, what do I want to do differently? Because certainly you're going to get triggered and angry in another game, right? I mean, you're going to have that same play show up. And the beautiful part about, you know, our training with you is that you now had a tool. I think the tool was going to the balcony. So,
that's right. It was. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt your story, but that was the tool, because that's emotional management. And so, yeah, and just being able to hand you a tool empowered you and also helped to heal you. I mean, that's the beauty of training in your life as intentionally as we train in sport, is that you can have hope that when I feel angry again or whatever happens in sport, I'm now trained in my life to be able to manage it in a way that represents me well.
And I wish I hadn't just started the course. I reckon if I'd already done the course, I probably wouldn't have done what I did. But it was too late, and it was, But anyway, it really helped me get through that difficult time, because social media at the time was just sort of kicking in as well. And so the video got put up on Facebook, and then it traveled around, and then I was accused of all sorts. and had to go through a pretty lengthy process of having to face the media and explaining, where my head was at and apologising. So it was a really tough time of my life, and luckily I was on this course and with you coaches and people learning to be coaches like myself. It couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, power of team, right? All of us just loving and supporting each other. And certainly in life, we're going to have moments that are ones, on our scale of 1 to 10. 1 is our lowest point. And how powerful to have a team of people loving you and supporting you, no judgment, really making through. I mean, that's what a champion life is about. I mean, sports comes and goes. Certainly it stays in our DNA. It's so much a part of our story. And yet we are these people that just, we want to be loved. It hurts when people criticize and do, the things that they do. We're humans, and we're out there playing our business and our game in front of the whole world, and everybody's criticizing and cheering. And, it's quite interesting, really, if you think about that dynamic. And I want to talk about one of your 10 moments. We do 10 moments a lot. It's on a scale of 1 to 10 for the team listening. And one of your 10 moments was, I think, having a beer in South Africa with your dad, in terms of, if I remember the story. So do you want to share that?
Yeah, it was, I think just with the whole journey of my career was sort of a roller coaster, and it wasn't as if it was bad or anything. It was just it's like anyone. It's like you've got your story and your journey, and it's hard. It's really hard. And when we finally, we qualified for the World Cup, which was huge for me, like playing in front of 50,000 people, home fans, to qualify. And then to go to South Africa with the World Cup was just, it's anyone's dream as a soccer player, and to go there. And then, for me, I didn't play at the World Cup. It was another challenging time of my career, but to be there. But then at the end of it all, I was really proud of myself, the way I handled myself for not playing. I was able to accept the fact that, I didn't get on. I was disappointed, but I never showed that to anyone else. And then, the actual feeling of looking up to the grandstand and seeing mum and dad up there and not getting on really hurt me. I wished mum and dad saw me get on the field. And I'll never get over that, but I've managed to park it and deal with it. And, to sit there after the World Cup and to have that beer, because you're in isolation too, so you don't get to see your mum and dad, even though they're in the same country at the World Cup with you. And to have that beer with mum and dad at the end, just to give them a cuddle, and and knowing that they had my back. And again, that came back from the start when we had all those moments where I felt they didn't love me for who I was. Well, that really was my moment of, they get it, and they're just there to love me and support me and cuddle me and just be there for me, which was just amazing.
It is amazing. And so, Ben, as you share really love, that's our next component of competitive greatness: truth, faith, and love. You've taken us through the love of the game, the hate of the game. I mean, we talk about it's a love-hate relationship. I don't know any athlete that doesn't feel like it's a love-hate relationship. So, that's just the truth. It is what it is. And, let's talk about, for parents out there who are listening, who, their child is very talented. They may be feeling, very much like how your parents felt, really wanting to push and make sure that you have every opportunity to become who you want to be. And yet, what do you want to say to parents, or what do you wish your parents would have been able to been coached up in?
Yeah, for me, it's more, even like my boy's doing golf at the moment, and I found him getting pushed into this group that it was like the parents are there, and it's almost like we've got Tiger Woods at 10 years of age, and it's like, let them be a kid, just be out there with them, enjoy the moment. And look, they probably are good. If they're good, then it'll naturally take care of itself, rather than fighting it and pushing it. Just let it naturally happen and let them just be kids a little bit, And for me, I've sort of held my boy back a little bit from that group, because I just want him to go and just enjoy it and hit the ball and have fun. Because as you said, Carlette, you left home at early age like me. I don't want my boy to have to feel that he has to leave home at a young age because he's good at a sport. I want him to just enjoy his family life, his friends, his school. And I truly believe that they'll naturally, just the sport, if they're good at it, it'll take care of itself. And that's probably my biggest thing, and just love and support them. And, you know, I do still get stroppy at my boy if he is misbehaving and he's not engaged properly, yes. But when he has a bad shot or something's not right, it's like, try again, man. Good try. Who cares? You know?
The difference between a value versus performance, right? I mean, we have family values, and those are things that, you know, in our family, this is the way we do things or not do things. And I think that's really, you know, that's character, and that's the things that we can get from sport that are so valuable. And yet sometimes we forget the learning moments and teachable moments and discipline and commitment and, you know, those good, amazing life skills that can make us be a champion on and off the court, much, you know, past sports. But sometimes we get into the performance side, and it's a trap that's really dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I've got the parents of polishing the golf balls and putting the tee in the ground. And I'm like, mate, you get your own ball, you put your tee in the ground, and you put your ball on the tee and you smack it, because I'm not doing any of that, you know, like. And you know, and I don't want to take away what he also loves. He loves history. He loves warplanes. And like, so the other day we went to golf, but then we didn't go and play 9 holes. But he wanted to go and see so we found all these war bunkers around Wellington Harbour, and we walked around and just spent time together, rather than like, come on, hit the ball. You know, you're like, come on, you're Tiger Woods. You know, so I try, and there's a balance. Don't get me wrong. There is a balance, but I just personally think that's how I would want to bring my kids up after being pushed so hard. And I love my mum and dad dearly, but just early on, it was just a little bit much.
And again, all of us are doing the very best we can. I mean, I know my parents were doing the very best they can. There's not a person out there that's not doing the very best they can. And, you know, we are so for you. We are so for the story, whatever's happening. This is just a conversation to really have a glimpse into a champion's life and what it's like. So many times people don't get to hear really a true conversation, a real conversation about what is it that we wrestle with? How do we love the game, not love the game? How do we make peace with just our internal identity? And so let's stay on love a little bit. You know, it's one of my favorites. And another 10 moment is during the course, your wife had a baby.
Yes.
So that, I think it was your little girl, right? Your second?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Little Ashley. Yeah.
So tell us about your family. Take us through just a bit of that personal journey.
Yeah. So it's quite another emotional thing for me. So just before the World Cup, my little boy Cameron was actually born. And so he was born at 24 weeks. And so he was 715 grams, which I don't know what that is in pounds. But he was like...
He was a little guy.
He was smaller than an ounce of butter. And you know, so that was very emotional. So I had to go to the Football World Cup or Soccer World Cup and leave her behind with this baby that was half cooked, really. And so, you know, that was challenging. And so, but he is now the golfer. So he started soccer, and I've moved him away because it wasn't for him, and I didn't want him to live inside my dreams and hopes. And so he does golf, and he loves that. So we support that. And my little daughter Ashley, who is 6, she's my little bull terrier. She's the bloody dominant one of the family, and we love it a bit. But oh my God, that's why I've got no hair, because she is my hard work daughter. But you just absolutely love it a bit. And she's just started horse riding, and so he goes in, and we've said, you're not just going to do the lessons, you're going to do the whole lot. So you've got to do the grooming, the feeding, the cleaning. You know, so she understands that it's not just jumping on a horse and riding it. There's a lot of cleaning and work to do to do that as a sport or as something to do. So, and then my wife runs a little nail business. We've got a little salon that we created at our house. It's just a little room, a little nail salon, and she just works there, you know, when she has clients, and then she's able to kind of do the kids and also, you know, run her little business just for some pocket money for her, which is great.
Yeah, winning combination, right? Everybody being able to live the life they want. And what I really, want to just reiterate as I listen to you talking about the horses and kind of that is really embracing the journey. And so many times, and just the process, what it takes. And so many times we look at the glamour or the end result or any of that. And it's like, I want to be famous, or I want to be a pro, soccer player, or and it's like, there's a process that's happening day in and day out with every choice that we make. And is that preparing us to accomplish our dreams, or is that taking us away from it? And, so many times we're skipping all of the really hard work because we just want to get right to, hopping on the horse, to use your terminology of it. And, instead, can we start to think about life as, let's embrace all of it, the good, the bad, the hard, the struggle, and really, see if we can respect it and enjoy life in such a different way when it isn't just about achieving this destination. Because so many times in sport, if we've given up our whole life for a championship and we don't make it, or, heaven forbid we get hurt, all of a sudden it can feel as if we've wasted all our whole life, rather than it being like the friends that I've met, the people that I've experienced, the coaches, the travel. And so it's quite a journey. So let's continue your journey in terms of that transition. It is really difficult. A lot of people don't understand just how powerful it is to leave a career that you basically started at 8 years old, or, very young. And during your formative years, when it becomes your identity and all of those things. And then at the age of 35, you're now supposed to go do something else that you haven't been training. I mean, you got nothing, right? You got nothing. And you're supposed to be a champion at whatever else you're going to, with zero training, zero anything. And it's like, what the heck just happened? Like, what planet did I just get dropped off of? So take us through your journey.
It's so true. It's so true. It's looking back now, I'm really proud of where I'm at. Like, probably 4 years now, I feel, I wouldn't say relaxed, but I feel I've got a good stable income. The businesses are going okay, and I can kind of just relax a little bit. And my first, literally your money switches off and you've got no money. You just got no income. And I bought into a football apparel business, Ultra Football. I think we had one club, so we were leaking money because we had to pay a salesman, and there's all sorts happening. And I just said, like, I'm just gonna. So my wife said to me, I said to her I think I had two weeks off, and I said, I'm going to work. She's like, well, what are you going to work for? She's got, you don't actually have anything.
You don't have a job, babe.
I don't actually have anything. But my business partner says, why don't you just come into the office and just get into a routine, And so I did. I said, well, I'm going to go into work. I'll make some calls. I'll start trying to build Ultra Football. And I have the contacts. I'm a soccer player. Everyone will kind of know who I am without being arrogant about it. But it'll at least get me a conversation. And literally I just started cold calling. And everyone knows that how hard that is.
Yeah, that's cardio. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And so I cold call, and everyone's like, oh, everyone knows you, whatever. I'm like, I went through I just looked up online what the club was, who the president was, and rang him. He's like, g'day. Some of them knew me maybe, which was great. Some of them wouldn't have. And so we just gradually just grew the business I went from 15,000 to 30,000 to 45, and I just gradually I'm up to full salary now. And then I was, and that's just pretty much my full-time job now. And then I've also I do a little bit of professional development for Wellington Rugby, which is, we have 4 hours a week. So they're not allowed to do rugby. They have to do education, and I have to have education slots for them. So we do stuff for their insurances, what your education might be, or whether you want to be a tradie. They have their own insurance packages that we need to educate them on. There's a wide range of stuff we do, and that's a cool little part-time role. It supported me while Ultra Football was growing, but I'm able to kind of still keep both of them, and it's a good balance. I love helping people. Yeah. I didn't want to be doing it full-time just because it was quite draining. Mm-hmm. And I also love selling and talking to people, so it's just a perfect fit for me.
I love how you've put all your strengths together, right? I mean, that's what we do in sport is we know what we're good at. We don't try to be good at things we're not. I mean, that's something that I think so many times athletes are fantastic at being like, I'm not any good at that. Like, why would I practice that? Why would I remotely do it? And, here's my strengths. Here's what I'm great at. Let me go do it. I love how you took those transferable skills of commitment, determination, like, give me the soccer ball, give me the phone, whatever it is, like, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to figure out a way. And that is, such a champion model in terms of really using what made us great in sport and how does it make us great in life. And so when you were doing your work, and you still are doing your work in terms of with athletes, was the sports life coaching certification, was that of value to you? How do you use that now in your life?
Well, with the players, so we see, I've probably got about 50 to 60 players. And so, every now and then, I'll still use the tools. I don't use them heaps because we have to do big group seminars. And sometimes it's a little bit much for so many players. Yeah. But when I've got them one-on-ones, we do watch a 10 moment, I just throw little things out there to them just to kind of start thinking about, or keep thinking about, who they want to be, what it is they want to be. And, and just keep, it's hard, what it's like when you're an athlete, because all you think about is the sport, and I'm sitting there trying to teach them about education and
life.
As long as they keep moving in that direction of trying to learn, trying to work on things, I know that they'll move or be ready when they're ready.
Yeah.
You know what it's like, that shift that you get, it could come in the first 6 months, or it might take 6 years.
Right.
And the tools for me are, they just pop in with, especially one-on-ones. I find it really useful with one-on-ones because the players, when they're on their own, they're a lot more easier to deal with rather than as a group, as you probably know, Carlette, too.
Well, and also just as a credential, right? Being able to have something that you worked on as a pro athlete. You went through the course, you got that as a credential, you were able to use it in your own life, personally and professionally. And then when you transferred out, that's another thing that's really challenging, is that when we transition out of sport, we don't necessarily have any credentials. And the fact that you had this, do you feel like that was an asset to you getting the job?
Well, it was, for the Wellington rugby job, I remember scrapping away in the interview. It was my first interview for 10 years. And
probably, right?
And I think I just talked absolute rubbish. And then they saw that when I was playing, that I'd done my certificate, and I'd probably only just finished it. And I think I'm 100% certain it was the icing on the cake, where they went, you know what? I can see that he understands professional sport, and these players will really be able to connect with him in that point. But he has actually upskilled and educated himself around the off-field, or the off-field stuff, or dealing with players not as an athlete. And that's the biggest challenge they were probably more worried about, was the fact that, can he actually come in and not be an athlete? And that's where they must have saw my certificate and gone, actually, he'll be all right.
And you've been amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that transition, because you and I were talking earlier that it's been 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah.
4 years. And that you're just now kind of coming back into reconnecting back to sport. This is very common. A lot of times when an athlete transitions, there's some healing that has to happen. It's a big, big deal. There's grief, there's loss, there's confusion, there's relief. It's just packed with so many emotions. And so what's unusual is a lot of people think that we'll go, we love the sport and we'll stay in it. And instead, I know for myself, I needed some space. I needed to figure out who was I without sport. And, there's a lot that happens in that gap. And so take us through your gap and what you've discovered now as you're, kind of sticking your toe back into a little bit of connectivity with sport.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for connecting with me and getting me back into it, because I pretty much just, when I finished, I was, as you said, broken, and I pretty much shut the door, and I was done. And I don't know why I had anger towards it and just didn't want anything to do with it. I don't know. I can't explain that. I think I was just beaten up and mentally broken. And so I just parked it up and just got straight into work. The other thing I did have that was a major thing for me was, as a male, probably more so, is provide was going through my head. I need to provide for my family. I need to pay the bills. I need to have them with food on the table. And so that was probably my motivation. And that's why I shut the door and just didn't want to go there. And then it was just so determined. My mother-in-law, actually, she won't remember she said it, and it was probably a flippant comment. I said to her, I really want to be around the kids with my business, like to be able to pick them up from school, drop them off, go to sports days, whatever it might be. And she's like, how are you going to do that with your business? When you've got a business, you've got to be working in it. I'm like, no, I'm going to show you, like, yeah. And like,
there's
and again,
that athlete again coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but when someone says I can't do something, for some reason, I always have to go and prove them wrong. And it wasn't her fault, like it wasn't but it was something that I was like, I can do this, and that was one of my goals, was to still be around my kids, but have a successful business. And so I walked them to school nearly every day. Some days I can pick them up, and then I can also take them to school trips or whatever it might be. And that was that's a 10 moment for me. Yeah. That's a 100% 10 moment. So it was more provide. If anything, that's it was all that was there, really. And it was head down, bum up, and just make it happen. And I know that sounds really sort of very basic, but
it's purpose.
That was all I had. That was my motivation. And I was very worried that I wouldn't be able to provide.
Well, I know, Ben, I was in the airport in New Zealand. I used to travel to New Zealand all the time, and I was at the airport getting ready to board my plane, and I saw your book in one of the bookstores. And so that was a 10 moment. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, and that was really interesting. And I get phone calls from people and say, oh, you wrote a book. Like, I'm thinking about doing a book. And I'm like, don't do a book.
I feel the same way. I wrote a book and people are always like, oh, I'm like, it's like birthing a child. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I do not write a book. So.
Yeah. Oh, like, honestly. And again, because soccer's not so big here, my motivation was, I went and met with the big bookstores, and they were like, you're a soccer player. I only really want to do a rugby player, or, someone that's going to sell me some books. So, mate, you'll do okay, but you're not for us. And I was like, man, how am I going to do this? I just want to do this myself. And again, it went back to my why around football. It was, I want to inspire as many young kids as possible. And that was where the book sort of was coming in from it too as well. So tell my story, my journey, and inspire as many young kids as possible, or people. And that's where I started that. And I went out and met a couple of people, and I got a sponsor. My first boss sponsored me a bunch of money. And if he didn't sponsor me any money, I would have lost money. Like, it would have cost me loads of money. But I was lucky that he sponsored me. And I was able to do a full book tour from the bottom of New Zealand right up to the top. It was an amazing trip. I took a bunch of mates with me, and we told my story around the country. And it was certainly it's really challenging, and I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't do it again. I honestly wouldn't do it again. And when I talk to people, it's like, if you're not prepared to work hard and to get out there and try and sell the book and do tours and get out to speaking gigs for it, like, you're wasting your time. And then also, my big thing was, I wanted it to sound like me. I wanted it to be my words. I wanted it to be me, not, someone else writing it and putting it. So, like, when I read it, I probably read it 20 times. But I wanted to make sure it sounded like me. So when you're reading it, you're hearing my voice rather than, someone else, really. And I remember some of the words, the writer that did it for me, and I was like, mate, that's not my word. Like, I don't even know what that word means. Like, please take it out. And so I wanted it to be really specifically to me. And again, I'm just about ready to go back and read it. I just about threw them and burnt them after the book tour, and I want to go back and read it. I think it's time to go back and read it. So for me to be on this chat with you is really making me go back into, like some of the football stuff that I think I should go back to and reminisce a bit.
Well, it's an honor to be on your journey with you, because I know that it was, such a blessing for us to be on the journey with you. You were still playing and, having a young family, and it was just great to be able, not only for me as your coach, but you had amazing teammates. I mean, that's the beautiful part about our course, our sports life coaching certification, is that you are on a team, and that team is just as valuable. I mean, I designed it around sports. So, it is an authentic team that you are showing up for. You are there for each other. I mean, we love and support each other. We go through life together. It's 60 hours. So there's a lot that happens, connecting every week. And so just, it's just a journey that connects us forever, and watching you go through all of it. I do want to put a shout out to Helen, who was the one that connected us, and just, the power of gratitude. And really, to me, I just believe in the power of team and connectivity and relationships. And I wouldn't be where I am today, and the honor of being able to have a career that I absolutely love, without people supporting me. And Helen is another one of she's actually a master coach for us in New Zealand, and she connected you and I. So what do you remember about that?
Well, Helen's been absolutely outstanding. She got me on the course with you, or the certificate. And so she connected me in that way, and so grateful for that. But then she has run and connected with me every sort of month since I've finished playing, and she does not have to do that at all. It's not part of her job or her role or responsibility. And she then just contacted me. We had a coffee the other day, and she said, "I hope Carlette's been in contact." And I said, "Yes, she has." And I have replied, and we've locked in a Zoom chat, which is here we are now. And Helen is a lovely, lovely lady, and she just cares about all the athletes she works with, and she goes above and beyond, because I've finished. That's not her job. Once I'm done, I'm out. She looks after the current players at the Phoenix, but she carries on. What a lady.
Yeah, relationships, right? I mean, isn't that what life is all about? And Ben, that's what this journey's been about. It's been wonderful to connect and just relive our stories, our highlight film, and just, what an honor to be able to share life together and have a relationship, even though I don't even know if you and I have we met in person?
No.
I don't think
we haven't.
I was thinking, did I meet you when I was in New Zealand? But I don't think I did.
No, because I can't remember what happened, though, because you were meant to come out and then you didn't come out. And then I went to Mark's place in Auckland, who was on the course with me. Right. And we jumped online and we graduated online. So there you go.
So we've never met, but we have been in each other's lives for a good 6 years now. And, there you go. There's a virtual relationship that's just as powerful and strong. And, that just gives all of us hope in this day of technology right now, as we're doing things, that you can use technology to really be in relationship, serve, support, help each other. So Ben, as we wrap this great conversation up, what are your words of wisdom?
My words of wisdom for me is that I am just wrapped that I've actually reconnected with you. And that's just don't ever lose contact with the people that have been there for you, and that you've had the relationships in the past. And I think you mentioned it earlier, is the fact that we haven't spoken for a while, but you'll always be here for me, and likewise. And it's honestly, my hairs are standing up on the back of my neck, because I'm just so relieved that I've reconnected, and actually just talking about my past, because as I said, it was parked up, and I was probably quite bitter about it, but I'm feeling really good about it now. And so thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, I love being on your support team, and just the healing of being able to tell our story, and also to just take some time to heal. I mean, sport is well, life is brutal. It can be
Yeah.
really tough with any profession that we're going through, and just being honest and being able to say, I need some space, I need some time, but always being anchored in that love and that love for each other and relationship. And so, Ben, thank you for a 10 conversation, and just your story is incredible. I am so just excited for you to give hope to our world, and for everybody to really be able to hear that as we go through sport, transition, whatever it is that be true to yourself, be authentic, our lives matter, and to be able to ask for help and to speak our truth. So thank you, and cheers to you living a 10 life, and to be continued. We'll do another one and catch up another time.
Thanks, Carlette. That was awesome. Loved it.
Thank you. Okay, team, it's up to you. It's your turn to step out and start living that 10 life. Whatever your story is, it is so important. You and your life matter, and you've got relationships in your life. Ben and I hope that we have inspired you and given you some hope to connect to the people that you love. Reach out, tell them thank you, tell them, you love them, whatever it is that's on your heart. That's what we want to give you with as a message today, is that our lives are about the people that we're honored and able to really spend a moment with, or a lifetime with. Whatever it is, it matters. So go and live a 10 life, and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. We'd like to get you coached up, so head over to iTunes and Spotify and hit subscribe. And remember, a champion life is a 10 life. You and your life matter. Create a life that you love, give hope to others, and be and choose nothing but 10s. Be you, the world needs you. Go to lifetrainingacademy.com to start your training and get coached.